So a good way to do that, a good way to stay up on technology is to hang out with other developers. And meetups like that are just great for that. And a couple months later, one of the other Daves got sick of running the meetup, so Miles took it over. And Miles has now been the organizer of NDRB, the Indianapolis Ruby Brigade, for like 9 or 10 years, almost since its inception. And I know you're all still pretty early in your college careers, but getting involved in meetups like that is just great, even if you are a student. So even though it's like people like us who've been doing this a really long time who go to this, there are a lot of beginners there. And we try to have talks that are beginner friendly, and it's just a really, really good community. Because like there's nothing that thrills us more than someone who wants to learn this stuff. It's like we remember being that person and having that much energy. What you don't know is how tired I am when I get home after doing this all day. I can talk for 6 hours straight, but it's exhausting. So get involved in stuff like that. Yesterday I wore a shirt that said Indie Hackers. So Indie Hackers is another thing that Miles started. And it's like the meetup of meetups. So the Python people and the Java people and the .NET people and the Ruby people and the JavaScript people, even like the React and Angular people, living together, mass hysteria. We all come together for this organization. It's a nonprofit that, we're still figuring out exactly what our formal mission is. We've been around for like 6 years now. But we have meetups that like where we encourage all these people to come together, get to know each other better, be exposed to the other communities, and just have a good time. And seriously, it's super, super valuable. That's how I've met a lot of my best friends. That is how we met Dave Jones, obviously. It was several years before we hired him, but that's how we got to know him as like this quiet Dave who just seemed to have all the answers. Anyway, get involved. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. Hey, she always gets my references. That's like, that's what she's here for. Like she's seen lots of movies from the 80s and older. Not that that's all you're good for. I'm not suggesting that. Right. Yeah, she's a plant. She's a plant. So anyway, I will ramble on about some kind of related topics a little more tomorrow too. But I just want to emphasize that there's more to it than just learning the APIs for this stuff. The APIs will change. You need to get good at it, but you also need to just get good at learning and get used to effective ways of learning. Different people learn different ways, but hanging around other people who you think are really good at it is a really good way to get better at anything. Like, I played guitar for a while and like taught myself and sucked. And I'd been in a couple of bands, but I was always in a band where I was the best guitarist, and I was bad, guys. But then I was in a band with a guy who was really freaking good, and like I loved that. It wasn't like, oh man, now, gosh, I need to start showing off more so people don't think he's better than me. Like I loved hanging out with a guitarist who was way, way better than me because it made me way better. Not that he like sat me down and taught me scales or something, just like you couldn't help it. Because positioning yourself next to other smart people or people with more experience, if you're observant, you kind of see how it's done, and you pick up on things in their approach. For example, like I was talking about with how to debug a problem when you do run into it. I make a lot of jokes about oh no, we're saying an error message, I better just give up and ask somebody, right? But seriously, I want to drive home that point. Like, this is how you deal with an error message. First, read it carefully, see if it's literally telling you how to fix it. And then, here's how you methodically go through and look for things. So, this is still a classroom environment. It's not, a whole lot like the real world. But you see a lot of those, you get a lot of those kinds of things just by hanging around people who've been doing it longer than you. And if you're lucky, you'll work at a place where they do code reviews, and that's great. if you do if you do work someplace where you do code reviews, there are good ways and bad ways of giving feedback, and there are good and bad ways of receiving feedback. And humility is kind of key to both. So don't take it personally. It's not personal. You should want to improve your code. Now, if the person reviewing your code is kind of a jerk and doesn't know how to give constructive feedback, then this is harder. But you know, it's still up to you how you respond. So be prepared to hear suggestions for how to improve something. Take it seriously. See if you can learn something. And when you are giving feedback, remember, it's not personal. And be careful about the way you word things, even though you know, like, no, I'm just talking about the code. I'm not talking about you. Be careful. Think about how you would take it if you read what you're writing. And, you know, make sure you're being very objective and, you know, giving good, actionable feedback and not being a jerk. That's a whole big topic that we don't have time to cover in 3 minutes. But just wanted to throw that out there. So again, we'll talk about a little more of this stuff again tomorrow. Any questions? So does anyone like have any questions about freelancing, about professionalism? Because I am the very picture of professionalism, guys. Or anything that I've been talking about. You get it now. You're all ready. All pros. Okay. Just want to make sure you have a chance to ask if you have any questions about this stuff. Other people may have the same questions, so don't be afraid. Yeah.
So you told us like go out, like look for organizations or like stuff like indie hackers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do we learn about those kind of?
Right. So one way is truly just to go to meetup.com and search for things you're interested in. Also, the thing about indie hackers specifically is because we're kind of the meetup of meetups. Like we tell people about the specific meetups. Our website's indiehackers.org, and the website's kind of terrible, but there is a calendar of events up there. I can't remember what anyone updated it or not, but there's also a newsletter. The Indie Hackers newsletter talks about the meetups that are coming up, talks about what's happening locally, talks about cool new projects that people are releasing, because that's another good thing to know. Like so-and-so just released this NPM package or whatever. Check it out. Newsletters are great, by the way, also. There's one called JavaScript Weekly, and I highly recommend it, even if you don't read it cover to cover every time. Like that's how we found out that on Friday, NPM 5 was released with some of the new features that we've been waiting for. Some of the new features that are the reason that Yarn had to be created, because NPM was behind. So that's how we find out about a lot of that stuff. Or we'll see a blog post that says, using props is stupid. You should be doing React this way. We'll talk about what that way is tomorrow. not that there was literally a blog post like that. We'll talk about some of the other ways to do React tomorrow. But really, subscribe to JavaScript Weekly. It's great. And there are job postings there too. There's a job board on Indie Hackers. But yeah, searching Meetup is a good way to do it. There's a JavaScript Meetup. There's a waiting list every single time. There is a React Meetup, right? Yeah, there is. So anyway, it's good stuff. Also, keep in touch with us. React Indie. Ah, darn. Yeah.